all signs are pointing to Ben Johnson becoming the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Could Hendon Hooker be on his way to Sin City? The Raiders interview Ron Rivera and Robert Saleh for the head coaching job. And could Maxx Crosby be on his way out? Yo, what is up, Raidernation? It's your boy Small Raider back at it again with another episode of Nation News. If this is the very first time you're coming across this channel and you love the Las Vegas Raiders and love daily videos, then hit that subscribe button, hit that notification icon button just to notify you guys when I upload more videos just like this. With that being said, let's get started with your news. First things first, Pac-Man Jones came on the Pat McAfee show and basically said that he has sources that says that Ben Johnson will be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Sources says that Ben Johnson is going to be the Raiders coach.
Okay.
Like real good sources, like I'm talking about like real good sources, as we shall say. I don't think Dion is going nowhere.
Now, of course, this isn't breaking news. It's no surprise to the Raider Nation, but it just adds more legitimacy to what we already know right now. Heck, I even got some sources in the building today, for sure, saying that Ben Johnson is the favorite to get the job. The Raiders are willing to give him whatever he wants. They're ready to break the bank for him by any means. And unless something crazy does happen, Ben Johnson will be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And there is a reason why the Raiders have been interviewing so many different GMs, and even GMs that's not on a lot of people's list, is the mere fact that Ben Johnson gave a list to the Raiders of GMs that he wants to pair up with here in Las Vegas, gave the Raiders potential candidates, and the Raiders are doing their due diligence and going out there and interviewing them. And once they do make Ben Johnson the head coach, he will bring in his GM to come over here and work alongside of him. Now, in the previous video, there was a person that commented and said, why not just give us why, Ben Johnson is a good fit for the Raiders? So you know what? I thought, hey, let me just kind of list it down right here why Ben Johnson is a good fit for the Raiders, and also why Ben Johnson isn't a good fit for the Raiders. First being, I believe the reason why he would be a good fit for the Raiders is, one, he's an offensive genius. We already know that. We know what he's done over there with the Lions. Their offense is consistently ranked at the top of the NFL, averaging 33.2 points per game, which is insane. And the Raiders have yet to see that in forever. On top of that, the Lions have the most 40-point games with no turnovers. Ben Johnson has the ability to design high-scoring, efficient game plans. And of course, we know for the Raiders, that's something we desperately need on the offensive side of the ball. Ever since we've moved from Vegas, I don't think our offense has been at the top of anything. And knowing that Ben Johnson could be a guy that turned that whole thing around, I feel like that is one really good reason why he could be a good fit over here in Las Vegas. On top of that, player development. Johnson has a proven track record of maximizing player potential. He's transformed Goff into one of the top passers in the NFL, and right now is close to 4,700 yards this season passing. And this is a guy that a lot of people already wrote off in the NFL after, the Lions traded away Matt Stafford and got Jared Goff in return. Nobody really thought that he could take a team to the playoffs, and look at how good the Lions look right now. Johnson has also developed Jahmyr Gibbs into a premier back. Of course, coming into the draft, Jahmyr was one of the highly touted running backs coming out of the draft, but that's one thing to do and another thing to see on the field. There's been a lot of talented players that don't look good on the field, and to see how well Jahmyr Gibbs is slowly developing, especially alongside of somebody like David Montgomery, of course, can be huge for the Raiders' future. The Raiders are going to have a lot of picks. There's going to be a lot of players that we bring in, a lot of young players to develop. So if Ben Johnson can do that for us, especially with the next quarterback that we have to be the next franchise guy, if you could get the most out of him, then that's great for the Raiders' future. Not only that, if we do bring in a veteran quarterback that could come in and at least be a bridge quarterback, I believe that Ben Johnson could put them in the right position and put the right pieces around him, put the right game plan together to succeed next season. So for those reasons alone, I feel like that's why a lot of Raider fans really want him over here, because not only is he a highly touted offensive coordinator, but he's one guy that's on the market right now that everybody wants. He could be the next great mind offensively to be a winning head coach in the NFL for whatever team he goes to. But that being said, though, reasons why I feel like he would not be a good fit for the Raiders. One easily is his limited experience. He has a short career as an offensive coordinator and has no head coaching experience. That was one reason why I was kind of kind of skittish on him because there's really no tape of him, taking over a team. And it's one thing to be a coordinator and one thing to be a head coach. So with no experience and, just questions on him being ready to be a head coach, to take on a lot of responsibility, there's going to be a lot on his plate. And it's yet to be seen whether or not he could take upon that load. Another big reason is the fact that he's going to have a lot of high expectations coming over here to Las Vegas and a lot of pressure, man. The Raiders fan base and the Raiders organization hasn't seen any winning seasons in quite a long time. Yes, I know we had one stint in 2021 and another stint in 2016, but for the most part, the Raiders haven't been winning anything. We've been going to the playoff and getting dropped. We haven't been consistent as a franchise. There hasn't been a winning culture over here for a long time. So I understand that, coming over here isn't going to be an easy job. And I know that Tom Brady and Mark Davis wants to see some immediate success over here. Not saying that they want to go and win a Super Bowl right away or go win in playoffs right away. But I feel like just turning the tide and even looking like a much better team than we did this past season, I think will go a long way for the front office. Then you look at the Raiders fan base. I'm a part of that as well. Raider fans are so quick to want to win that they look over stability. We can't really be stable if we keep firing the next guy over and over and over again. But most of that comes in due part because the Raiders aren't winning. And if Johnson can't come over here and deliver some quick results, at least show some promise, the Raider fans are going to turn against you. And this organization could possibly move on from you in a year or two. And that alone could cause a lot of pressure for a first-time head coach. But, by the sound of it, the Raiders are willing to do everything that they can for Johnson, give him all the right resources, whatever he wants, whatever bag he wants as well, to help turn this thing around. And it will take some time. That's one thing that we all got to realize. It's going to take some time. Rome wasn't built in one day. The Raiders aren't going to go out there and win a Super Bowl in one day. But as long as the Raiders do show improvement, then I do believe that Ben Johnson's job will be safe over here in Las Vegas. Now, that wasn't the only thing that Pac-Man Jones talked about on the Pat McAfee show. He also brought up the fact that Shedeur Sanders would make a lot of sense for the Las Vegas Raiders.
He gets drafted, obviously.
It just make a lot of sense, bro. Like, him and Brady, they got a deal together. Brady have been training him since he was in high school. Like, he signed to Brady right now as far as endorsement. Like, it just seems like a good fit to me for a guy that's the owner of a team that's been working with the kids since he was in high school, that knows his flaws and the things that he's good at, to get him. It just don't make no other sense for me to think anything different than that.
And also, he and Mark Davis tapped each other up, I believe, at a game or two. They have a relationship and everything like that.
Now, it's definitely going to be a very interesting offseason. I know it just got started, but, knowing the Raiders right now, a lot of things can change. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the number one pick with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And now, fast forward to now, the Raiders are looking past that and saying, Shedeur Sanders might not even be the guy. Jackson Dart has risen above a lot of draft boards and a lot of Raider fans' hearts right now. So a lot can change, but I'm not going to blindly say that I would rather take Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders, because if Shedeur was still available, that would be my number one guy still right now today. But it's easier said than done, because the Raiders' position right now, sitting at number 6, is going to be really, really hard to get him unless something crazy happens and Shedeur Sanders falls down in the draft. The Raiders will have to trade up to acquire him. If they really, really want to do that, and if Ben Johnson wants to get him, then I see the Raiders doing that. But as far as right now, yes, there is some relationship there. There is, some chemistry there with him and Tom Brady, and Tom Brady knows a lot about him, but I doubt that the Raiders will get him. I think the Raiders will end up eventually getting Jackson Dart or maybe even Jalen Moreau in the draft in the first round. But even though a lot of Raider fans don't want to hear that, I just think that that's the truth. Now, since we're talking about the quarterback position, let's stay on that subject just a little bit, because Honda Carpenter kind of put something out there into the atmosphere, into the Raiderverse or whatnot, saying that the Raiders could possibly trade for Hendon Hooker, quarterback for the Detroit Lions. Especially if Ben Johnson was to come over here, he has a feeling that the Raiders could bring him over here to Las Vegas if the Raiders don't go out and get somebody in free agency. But this is what he had to say. Hooker already knows Ben Johnson's system, and what if you get him for a second round pick or whatever you get him for? I think that's fascinating. I don't think it's getting enough attention, so I'm throwing it out there. I think that's a very viable option for the Raiders. I'm not in any way reporting it's done. Detroit would want to have to do the deal, but I think if the Raiders were to get Ben Johnson, and he's clearly the front runner, I think Hooker is a real possibility, and I did not come up with that on my own. First of all, I got a lot of respect for Hondo. That's one of my Usos, man, and I love what he's doing with his channel and whatnot. If you guys are not following Hondo, go and follow him. Second of all, Hell to the nah. I would not trade a second round pick for Hendon Hooker whatsoever. This was a guy that got drafted in the 3rd round to Detroit, and there's no way that he's more valuable than a guy like Devontae Adams. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take that back, because I believe if you want to go get a young quarterback that is unproven, that hasn't played a lot and has limited experience playing in the NFL. Yes, he does have a high ceiling, and I do believe that he has a lot of solid traits in the NFL. I ain't giving up no second round pick for him. Hell no. If we get him for like a 4th, 5th round pick, then hell yeah, let's do that. I'm for getting Hendon Hooker. Like I said, even with the limited experience, only, playing in 3 games, was 6 for 9, 62 yards. If the value for him is a second round pick, then I would gladly pass on Hendon Hooker. I'd rather take a chance in free agency, go get Justin Fields. Heck, go get Trey Lance if you want to get somebody with some upside. That would be much cheaper than that. But, I thought I'd bring it up because I thought it was an interesting subject. And I know Hondo Carpenter could say a lot of things, whether it's true or not. It's something interesting to talk about. So I want to ask you guys what you guys think about this. Would you be open to going out and trading for Hendon Hooker? And would you trade a second round pick for him? Or what would you trade for him? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, moving on to the head coaching search, we know that Ben Johnson is the #1 guy. We talked about it in today's video, but the Raiders yesterday interviewed former Panthers and Commanders head coach Ron Rivera for the Raiders' vacant head coaching job, according to Albert Breer. Now, of course, Ron Rivera had some success in Carolina, especially during the 2015 season, going 15-1, where he and Cam led the Panthers to a Super Bowl 50 appearance, where they would eventually lose to the Denver Donkeys. Now, the same cannot be said for his time over there in Washington with the Commanders, but he at least captured the NFC East title. Not really saying much though, because the team ended up going 7-9. Now, I know I've drilled you guys about how much I really want to get a head coach with some head coaching experience, and Ron Rivera definitely has that, but he has never been a needle mover at the position. And right now, especially looking at his career, it has been mid. His head coaching career record, including playoffs, has been 105 to 108-2. I know it's better than what the Raiders have been doing in the past, but right now the Raiders are in position to either take that next step or, get somebody like a Pete Carroll, which I would take over Ron Rivera easily. But Ron Rivera, I think, is a solid head coach in the NFL, but I would gladly pass on him. Another former head coach that interviewed for the Raiders yesterday was former Jets head coach Robert Saleh. Now, I don't really see him becoming the Raiders' next head coach by any means, but I would love to have him as a defensive coordinator, which I doubt he wants to do right now. He's become one of the favorites to become the next Jags head coach, but if that doesn't fall through, there's been a lot of buzz around the NFL that he could be returning to San Francisco as a defensive coordinator. So, I think the Raiders are just doing their job here, just kind of having a feel for who's out there, but I doubt Robert Saleh is going to be a name to be brought up as a head coach. Heck, not even Ron Rivera. Now, moving on to the last bit of news that I want to talk about today is Maxx Crosby. Now, he was on Good Morning Football yesterday, and everybody has been talking about his appearance on there. A lot of people have been having a lot of speculations of him not looking the same, not sounding the same, him looking kind of like depleted and just looking down, and possibly saying that he might want to get traded from the team. And, I want to shoot all of that down right now because I actually got to go back and actually watch the whole thing and look at everything that he talked about. It just seemed like the same Maxx Crosby. Yes, I understand that he could be feeling down. Who wouldn't? This is a guy that vouched for AP, that really wanted AP over here and believed that this team could turn around this season, just for the season to be a horrible, horrible season. We only won 4 games, and to see how far this team has fell after the last few years, and him being a Raider for these past few years, it takes a toll on you. I mean, we've seen the same thing with Derek Carr, and I've talked about that before. But looking at him on Good Morning Football, I don't think that he said anything that would really show that he doesn't want to be here. Because I've talked to a lot of people close to him, and I know people that's close to him. I can easily say that he really wants to be over here in Las Vegas. He really wants to be a Raider for life. He just wants to see some difference there, and he wants to see some change here, because heck, we all do as Raider fans. We may hate this team at times, be frustrated at this team, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to be Raider fans at all. We just want to see some change, right? And I believe that's the same thing that Maxx Crosby wants over here in Las Vegas. Now, the main things that he did talk about was his relationship with Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders going way back, and he wouldn't mind seeing Deion as the next head coach if he was to be the head coach. Not saying that he wants him to be here, not saying that he's vouching for him to be here, but saying that, he would have his back. I think he would have anybody's back. He also talked about Dan Campbell and the Lions a little bit. Everybody kind of said that, hey, he might want to go to the Lions. Nah, chill. He's just talking about how good it would be to play under Dan Campbell, not really saying that he wants to go over there.
Seeing what Dan Campbell has built, hearing what those guys say about him, you know, Meek Robertson, former teammates out there. Pat O'Connor was my teammate at Eastern Michigan. Yeah. He's there with Detroit. Everybody says the same thing. They're like, I hope one day, you know, you just get to be able to be in that locker room with Coach Campbell. Like, he's incredible. They said he'll literally die for the players. Like, he lives by that. The things you see in the locker room post game and the interviews and everything, like, that's who he is.
And then he talked about the state of the Raiders a little bit and an update on his injury. He did give AP and Telesco a little bit of a shout out, but at the end of the day, I think that he just wants the best for the Raiders and for his career.
Yeah, future of the Raiders, obviously. I think everybody kind of knows what's going on. I mean, like I said, I'm there every morning. You know, we just talked about it, and it's very eerie around there, I would say. A lot of new changes and things like that. You know, obviously with Coach AP, you know, getting fired and Telesco as well. First off, I want to, you know, shout out to those guys. They were incredible. You know, a lot of things are out of my control. I'm just focused on my rehab right now, and we'll take it one step at a time.
With that said, though, I do believe that the Raiders have a really, really crucial decision to make on Maxx Crosby, though. We know that he's talked about openly about his guaranteed money not having any more moving forward. The Raiders right now will either have to pay him, give him that guaranteed money for the future and show him that loyalty that we have, or, as much as I don't want it to happen, and I don't think that Maxx Crosby wants it to happen, is trade him away and get as much assets as we can for Maxx Crosby. Overall, if it was up to me, I would just say, pay the man, give him what he wants, make him happy, and then let's build this team from the ground up, get the right players here, draft the right players, go out and have a game plan going into free agency, and don't be afraid to make some bold moves. If you do want that quarterback at number 1 or number 2, go and make that move by any means. Just don't trade away Maxx Crosby. But with that said, though, Raider Nation, man, let me know what you guys think about what we talked about today. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. If this is the very first time you're coming across the channel and you love the Las Vegas Raiders and love daily videos, then hit that subscribe button, hit that notification icon button to notify you guys when I upload more videos just like this. Until the next one, this is your boy, Simone Raider, and your boys, yeah.